Okay, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for Townsend, Massachusetts. It is 4:03 and we have a quorum. All those here present.
Mark Hussey, present. Can they hear us? though?
Can you hear us, Andrea?
Yeah, but my mic didn't click on right,
Ah,
so I'm present.
Okay,
Sam.
all right, Sam?
You're on mute, Sam. I'm just gonna click, we got it.
Sam Grant here. You got that this time?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Right.
Third time's a charm, I guess. Thank you.
All right, so I guess we're all set. Okay, today we're doing 7 transfers. And the first one is from the Board of Assessors in the amount of $540.53 to Board of Assessors wages. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Okay, and this is, I think, to cover minor deficit in the assessor's office wages for unanticipated overtime. Am I correct? Okay, I'll make a motion that we transfer $540.53 from the BOA professional services to the BOA wages.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Gerald Bezikas, yes?
Mark Hussey, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
See Dawn's on.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Okay, John, we're on the second one now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry about that. I
Okay.
didn't have a watch on.
We said you were right on the-
Yeah, we were speculating, Don. We were
Yeah.
speculating.
Okay, so if you want to, Jerry, just continue.
All right. All right, this is our second transfer. It is from the Board of Health to Board of Selectmen Professional Services. It's in the amount of in the amount of $20,000.
Purpose.
Any questions about this
Purpose.
purpose?
To cover the EOY deficit and BOS expense lines, $1,600. Deficit in office expenses, $950. Deficit in town reports line, $15,000 plus deficit in professional expenses.
And so if the committee is willing, I do have an explanation for all of the specifics that were listed below on this one. The office expenses is unfortunately just an unanticipated office expenses for the Board of Selectmen for purposes of setting up for new staff members that were not anticipated in the original budget.
Go ahead.
Sure. The $950 deficit in the town reports line is an expense that is a issue that we're going to see again next year. The cost of the town reports has gone up, and so the budget was for 2,000. The expense cost was close to 3. So that the $15,000 deficit in professional expenses, and I will be honest here. A very large portion of this is because of an error by clerical error by the staff when they put through a warrant that put through $10,000 in expenses on the warrant that was signed yesterday that were not intended for this, should not have come from this account. They should have come from the town council account. And that is an error. Sabrina, who's the executive assistant, it's a clerical error. She thought that it was from this professional services line, didn't realize that there was a specific line in the budget for town council expenses that had sufficient funds to cover this, and a specific line in the budget for town accountant expenses that was designed to cover this. And unfortunately, because of where we are at the end of the year, we're not able to correct that error. But it was because of an error. And there is funding in those lines to cover it. So that would be the vast majority of the professional expenses concerns are from that. There are also some unanticipated expenses. Psychological consulting services that the Board of Selectmen did for a now former employee. That was from, I believe, over the winter.
Really? Okay. What was the 1,600 for again?
Office supplies. That's it.
Oh, and then getting ready for the, okay. Getting ready for new employees.
Yes.
Is a portion of that buying a new computer?
So I don't believe that the computers would fall under these office supplies expenses. They're under a separate technology line.
I would have thought so too, but to get ready for a new employee, that seems like a great deal of money then.
Yes, and so for unfortunately for chairs and desks, not computers, technology, like I said, is a different line, but for chairs and desks, the increased costs for the things that we have to purchase, like paper and other office supplies, that was unanticipated at the time that the budget was.
Oh, so part of it was for her and part of it was just the regular supplies needed. All right.
A motion has been made.
Oh, I
I don't
don't think it
is.
was, and I will make it right now. I make a motion to transfer $20,000 from the health insurance fund to the Board of Selectmen professional services.
I'll second that.
You take a vote.
Mark Hussey, yes?
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
Carolyn Bezekas, yes.
And Don Hayes, yes. So,
Sorry about that.
yeah, no worries. I was late.
So we have five of us here now?
Yes.
Okay. The third one is for, let's see. It's from short-term loans and unemployment in the amount of $20,000. Any questions?
This, to cover facilities, oh yeah, this is for the excess electricity
So this is just,
expense.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's for the, look, right, it says right here, to cover deficit in facilities expenses primarily caused by overages in electrical costs.
And so one of the things I wanted to explain to the FinCom, which is in this year's or FY22's budget, we budgeted for $75,000 for energy costs in the facilities budget. That covers electricity and gas. And the total amount of those charges for FY22 for the town was $114,000. So several bills had come in that pushed the deficit over the amount that we had originally thought in this account. The cost of energy, as I think Teresa was mentioning earlier, is something that the Board of Selectmen is looking at, trying to work with the Energy Committee and work on energy aggregation to see if we can provide some relief, not just to town buildings, but also to the residents that are paying this kind of exorbitant increase. But that $40,000 in deficit that we have, this $20,000 will cover that, and savings on the facilities, other lines will cover the remainder.
I have a question. Does that include street lighting? I had an argument with Veronica, and she said that it belonged in the highway department budget. And I said, no, it's just a line under it. We argued about it. But I believe in the past, the selectmen had been responsible for paying the street lighting bill. Is that part of this?
So I don't know if the facilities energy line covers street lighting or not. I can find that out for the FinCom in the future.
Mhm.
I could, that's a knowable piece of information. Regardless of whether it's under highways or under facilities, it's all something that we would have to cover. I just
That was
don't
a
know.
line item, I think, in the budget, wasn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah, it has a line item. Generally, it's structured under, in the highway section of the budget, the omnibus. But it does seem, it falls into that funny category in that it's not really highway, it's just a bill for electricity for streetlights. But I think because it's streets, it fell into that grouping. And I think we'd see that on the account number, that the account number for the streetlights is in the highway numbering system.
It is
Yeah,
in the highway budget for this year, for next year, the next
F-
year's budget.
FY23, it was, yeah, FY23, it's still there.
I was just wondering that if that included
Mhm.
streets,
So
and streets were included in the highway budget, that you
Mhm.
would maybe have the money, but it's somewhere else where you
Right,
wouldn't
yep.
expect it. You know, then it would be
Mhm.
coming from highway rather than from the selectmen's budget.
Yep.
Although in
Yep.
years past, it always came under the selectmen. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Okay. Yep, I am. It's kind of like we've got the bill for the electricity, and I think it's easy. I for some reason I spent time reading my Unitil bill this past week, and there is a code that comes in from some of the meters that tells you where they're being read. So we'd be able to see from the bill whether it was in streetlights is one of those codes. So we should be able to very easily distinguish. I had no streetlights on my bill. I only had residential 1 and residential 3, but I thought it was interesting that they did have all the codes available to us, so that we can get to that. I think get to the granularity you're asking about.
And as I mentioned, I think that energy costs are something that we're going to be focused on a lot. I've got some proposals that I want to bring to the Board of Selectmen about attempting to rein in some of the energy the money that we're sending out to Unitel and to the gas suppliers. Part of it is the energy aggregation that we're working on. There's some other things that I think that we can do to reduce our energy usage, especially given the drastic increase that happened in January.
I have a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion that we move $20,000 from unemployment in, what is INT?
Interest on
Interest on short-term loans
Mhm.
and FAC electricity. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed. All right, I transfer $20,000 from unemployment interest from short-term loans to FAC electricity.
Right. So that's a total. There's 2 different amounts being moved. The
Yeah.
9. Yep. This would be the total. Yep.
49 from unemployment, and the short-term interest would be 9,000 to 4151.
Okay. Thank you. Just
We need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Mark Hussey, yes.
Carolyn Bezikas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
John Hayes, yes.
Okay. This is number 4. It's in the amount of $60. It is from highway wages to parks and cemetery and parks wages.
And this is to cover unexpected deficit in this salary line. I make a motion, we transfer $60 from highway wages and cemetery park wages. I'm sorry. Highway wages to cemetery parks wages.
Oh. Since I'm not running it out, I'll second that.
Didn't we have an article on the special town meeting regarding equalizing of salaries? Was this just an oversight from that?
I don't believe it was an oversight from an equalization of salaries. I believe it was just a very minor mathematical error in the setting of the FY21 budget.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have a motion. We did, okay. All right,
Mark Hussey, yes.
Gerald Mazekas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
John Hayes, yes.
Okay, a transfer in the amount of $4,000 from highway wages to highway public works supplies. Any questions?
I believe it's to cover a deficit in the public works supplies.
And more specifically, this was the highway department had some needed some extra street grates. They had some that were in a not great condition and knew that they had a excess in their overtime and wages line to cover it. And so rather than push that off till a new fiscal year, they purchased those grates this was the FY22 fiscal year.
All right, I move that we take $4,000 from the highway wages to the highway public works supplies.
I'll second that.
Good to me.
All in favor?
Mark Hussey, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
John Hayes, yes.
Gerald Mazekas, yes. Okay. Okay, I move, we're transferring the amount of $488.64 from, plan professional services to planning wages.
And I believe that's to cover minor deficit planning staff wages from staff shortage.
So as folks may be aware, at the beginning of the fiscal year, the land use department staff was basically non-existent. And so Beth Faxon, who falls under the planning staff, did have to work extra hours in order to cover those. The entirety of the land use department had an excess of funds because they have plenty of money in their wages accounts, but because she gets paid specifically from the planning wages, we do have to make a transfer in to cover hers. As we noted from our transfers that we did 2 days ago, the land use coordinator had a massive excess in wages that if they were all in one department would have just covered this, but because they were listed as separate departments in the budget, that's something we may change and lump all the staff that work in land use under one salary and wages and expenses line item to avoid things like this. But that would be an FY24 if we did make that change.
Okay. All in favor?
Oh, I gotta make the
Oh, go ahead,
motion.
I'm
I make a
sorry.
motion that we transfer $488.64 from planning professional services to the planning wages.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mark Hussey, yes.
Gerald Mazekas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
John Hayes, yes.
Okay. Last but not least, okay.
Mhm.
Transfer of $700 from Memorial Day supplies and recreation department supplies.
And this is to cover minor overage, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
to cover minor overages and the rec wages. I make the motion that we transfer $700, $145.95 from Memorial Day supplies, $550.05 from the rec department supplies to rec department wages.
I will second that.
I don't hear anything,
Okay.
so Mark Hussey, yes.
Gerald Mazekas, yes?
And
Sam Grant, yes.
Oh, I'm out of turn.
And Don Hayes, yes.
Okay, well, that, is the end of our meeting.
Thank
All right,
you.
I make a motion that we adjourn at 4:25.